Why is Hex better than Bitcoin? Well, first of all, it's the fundamentals of the code. The fundamentals of the code are better than Bitcoin's fundamentals. The inflation model is better than Bitcoin's inflation model. The staking feature is better than a mining feature. It's new tech versus old tech. It's decentralized versus centralized. Yes, all of those things. Well, hello and good morning. Welcome to Chatting with the Captain. I am the Captain, your Captain RG3. Everything good? Look at the chat room's already filling up right on. Hey, Bitcoin Maxi, it's a sinking ship, shipmates. It's a sinking ship. You're sinking, PulseChain. Oh my gosh. Bitcoin sunk, bro. BlackRock owns you. The institutions own you. The people you were fighting against own you. What are you going to do now? Go find some real DeFi. PulseChain's the only place it is, buddy. Good to see you in there, though. Glad you're hanging out with us. Street Guru, good stuff, man. Everybody get check that out. He's saying it right. You got it, Street Guru. Hello, Tam. Thank you for the support. Always good to see you in the chat room. Bit Finesse, what's up, dude? You've been around I haven't been around for a while. You've been in the chats. I gotta say, miss you though. Miss you. Haven't seen you on stream in a while, long while. Sandy Beach, my lady, welcome. We're gonna be ladies and gentlemen today. I hope so. We're gonna have a good show. We've got some good stuff to go over here with CC from Liquid Loans. It's gonna be awesome. Always good talking to him. Let's see. The Beach Dwell is in too. All right, everybody. Well, glad you're here. We're gonna get started right off the bat here. And we're going to go into some news, PulseChain news, crypto news, and just kind of like give you a couple old men in crypto's perspective on what's going on. So my good friend and old man friend, Crypto Crazy, what's up, man? How you doing?
I love the intro, buddy. That's good to see you. And yes, I'm definitely a grey-haired old man, and I'm happy to be in the elite company of the RG as well.
I'm embracing my gray, man. I'm embracing it because it's the only thing that's keeping me sane these days.
Yeah.
Everything out there that's going on, it's like, wait a minute. I remember the world used to be sane. Like there was a time when the world was sane, and these days it isn't. So I just reflect on it and know that there was a time when everything was sane, and maybe we can get back there somehow, some way. So anyway, how you been, man? It's good to see you.
Yeah, been really good. I think prior to jumping on, obviously we had a quick chat, but we're doing our bit. I think part of it is we were reflecting on Dave and I, as you know, he's the co-founder of Liquid Loans. We were reflecting on, look, Richard's marketing efforts in the past, he's a very controversial sort of character, very different way of approaching things. Yeah. I'd like to think I'm a little bit more traditional in the way that I approach the marketing efforts, but we've been presenting and attending a number of different conferences over the last few months. And probably the most noteworthy one was we were the platinum sponsor at HODL 2025 in Dubai. That was a really well-attended event. I wouldn't say it was nerve-wracking in the sense that, look, that's my past life is very much, hey, I've been on stage and presented. So none of that's necessarily new to me, but it's the first time that I've been on stage presenting about Liquid Loans and PulseChain. And the presentation went really well. The people received the information quite well. I think part of it was a bit of a mindset shift that we can talk about, but it was really good to do that. There's a number of them that we're sort of planning to do over the next few months. So there'll be more of that sort of thing. And look, the intent from our point of view is we need to reach a broader audience, right? And I think, obviously everyone's aware of what's been going on with Bitcoin, and it just brings a new audience in. But when you're presenting at these type of events, especially something like HODL 2025, despite the fact that crypto has been around for a little while now, there's a lot of newbies coming in, and they just need to understand some of the fundamentals. And so for us, it's a great audience to reach out to, a great audience to sort of educate in terms of what Liquid Loans is all about. But more importantly, that we're actually on PulseChain, and PulseChain is very much a thriving chain, and people should consider PulseChain more broadly. So it's been fun. It's been a little bit exhausting because, a fair amount of travel that's involved, but that's what we're doing. That's our part to sort of help and assist the chain and the community really to get an audience that I think at the moment we really need to be reaching out to.
Yeah, I agree 100%, especially with what you guys are doing, because, it's one thing to go out and promote PulseChain, but it's another thing to go out and get in front of people and promote, digital assets that have classed themselves, that have, proven themselves as being, hey, this is what crypto can do. This is what programmable assets can do, and here's how they function. And when you're talking to, other groups of people, whether it be the crypto space or the real estate space or the investment space, I've spoke on Robert Kiyosaki's stage and Ken McElroy's stage, and to people in the finance world, and they know very little about crypto. A lot of them know some of them own Bitcoin, but don't know much. But then we have this whole DeFi space where you guys are involved and you guys are cutting edge on. And, when you really sit down and explain these things to them, especially people, that are in finance or investment class folks, they really understand it. They grasp it. They feel it. They understand it. And when you get in front of them, especially in person, and you're not just some, random video or some, Google search running across their screen, it brings it into reality. You're sitting down talking with somebody who's explaining it to them in detail. And, that's the kind of outreach that we need. Is we need people to understand what DeFi is, and that we need more developers, and that we need more people in this space promoting it.
Yeah. And I think, we spoke prior to jumping on, but I kind of feel, mate, that there's a significant mindset shift that has to happen. And I think it's going to happen, and within crypto and even within our community. Like you and I both know that when most people, when they start their journey in crypto, people are generally just motivated by one thing and one thing alone, and that is a green candle that means, hey, I've bought at this price, it's gone up to this price, I'm going to sell because I'm making a profit. And that is a really short-term negative view of how the space should be viewed. And, to Richard's credit, when he launched Hex, I think the ethos of Hex, from my point of view, is delayed gratification, right? So it's not about get rich quick. It's about accumulating wealth over a period of time. And our ethos, as you know, has always been never selling. And the never selling element applied not just to, never selling Pulse, but also applies to never selling the loan token, which helps you to acquire more Pulse. And so those two things are really important to remember and reflect on. And we're hoping that we can educate a broader community to say, guys, when you come into crypto, it's not the get rich quick. It's about accumulation. It's about being smart about what you're investing in, making sure that you're investing in the right projects and hanging on to those things and extracting value over time without necessarily needing to sell the underlying asset. That to me, and the funny thing is, when we presented this particular issue to that audience, and everyone was gobsmacked, because even now people just don't recognize that. They don't think about this is a different mindset. And the really wealthy folk in the broader community, there's nothing new in this, right? This has been going on for centuries, where people have castles and land grabs and what have you. They never sell those assets. They borrow against them. That's how they continue to accumulate wealth. It's never about selling an appreciating asset. And that, I'm hoping that mindset shift, we can help to change that, particularly for the new entrants coming into crypto.
Yeah, and when your protocol first launched, I was doing a lot of research, and I just mentioned Robert Kiyosaki and Ken McElroy. I was researching a lot of the real estate tactics that they were using and what those people were doing with their wealth. Now, these people are all very wealthy, very successful, and have used the system completely to gain, retain, and grow their wealth. And when I saw the model, exactly what it was, and understood it, I'd always understand, okay, buy some real estate, improve it, flip it, sell it, rent it out, whatever. But there was a different system that they had there, borrowing against and creating syndicates, and using the tax benefits of that to spread out the taxes and lower their or raise their rent roll and lower all their expenses and whatnot. And I was seeing how they were, basically running their whole empires off of, borrowed money and doing it in a way that was tax beneficial to them, and accumulating assets on top of that. And when I saw what you guys did, and I started to, kind of peel the onion apart, and I was like, they're doing the exact same thing here in crypto that these guys are doing in the real estate markets and the investment markets, with the loan deal. And so, I mean, it's just another facet of what DeFi brings, along with, yield generation and all those other things. So it's really like what you said, that the people coming into the space need to understand it's accumulation. It's setting those assets up to work for you in the future, whether it be borrowing against them or yield generation or whatever it is, providing liquidity, all those things. People have to learn and understand how valuable the crypto that they're accumulating is, as far as, income generation. And that's the real game. Not, like you said, number go up. Now, number go up is nice because those assets that you do hold, the assets that you are accumulating, do go up in value. That's basically just a plus, and people need to see crypto in a different light versus when Lambo, Yeah,
exactly. And I think, look, there's probably nothing wrong with having the both mindsets. I mean, for example, we know that there was the meme coin craze, and the number goes up and then you're selling out of those coins. Like, that's not the type of asset we're talking about. But something like Pulse on PulseChain, that's the sort of asset that we're hoping that, and subject to a number of things that we'd like to see happen, that will continue to appreciate and hopefully appreciate in value over time. And as a result of that, that's the methodology we're suggesting, is don't ever sell it. Just never sell your Pulse and keep accumulating. And I think that's going to come to the fore over the long run. But it is very much a mindset shift. And I'd argue that even within our own community, I don't think people think about that too much. They think, hey, we want the price to go up because when it goes up to a certain level, I can sell out, extract some value that way. But as you know, that triggers a couple of things. One is you've potentially sold out of an appreciating asset, which is never a good thing. But also potentially in some jurisdictions, you may be subject to a taxable gain, which again is something that you can avoid if you're actually never selling. And so, we've sort of beat the drum about this for a little while now. And I kind of felt that when we were presenting at HODL 2025, I could actually physically see the penny drop for a lot of people. They go, got it. I now understand what this is about. And to me, that's the mindset shift. And we're kind of hopeful that that's going to happen in the short term. And we can approach a broader audience to come to PulseChain to do what they need to do. And, that's our ambition in any case.
Yeah. And when you look at the history of crypto, what you just said was, we're just figuring out now that never selling is the key. And it's obvious. All the things that have been introduced into crypto, all the different tools and the exchanges and the problems with everything that's been introduced from, the last 13, 14 years, whatever it's been, just holding on to your Bitcoin from day one until now is the winner. Like, that's the person that won. The person that bought some and did absolutely nothing won, and everybody else lost, or a few fell in the cracks and made it, but most of them were wrecked. And it's going to continue. That it's not going to change. It's going to be the people who don't sell and the people that use those assets to generate more wealth are going to be the ones that win, because now those are the tools that we have. We have tools that allow you to generate more crypto, just like staking your hex or borrowing against your assets, or providing liquidity, like we said. Those things didn't exist, before Ethereum came out, and now all these things exist. And it's really about the smart play versus number go up, because that's what the big institutions are hoping for. It's funny, we're at this place now. So they say in order for like a revolution to kind of take fire or to conflagrate, you need like 3%. You get that 3% mark of people coming in and doing something, then it conflagrates, right? Well, it's awful strange that here we are. The crypto space kind of tipped that 3% point this last, run into this bear market. And then all of a sudden, you see all the big institutions jumping in, wanting in, and now we're about to see us go past that 3, maybe into 5, 6, 7, 8, 10% of the world being in crypto. And I think this is what's happening now. We're getting ready to see it, start to conflagrate and a lot more people get involved, because all the legislation that's going on out there in the US anyway is, they are fighting. Yesterday, they had some legislation that got smacked down because people are now interested in it. Before they wouldn't even talk about it. Like the last two election cycles, they wouldn't even talk about crypto. It's like, no, get crypto off the table. We don't even want to talk about it. And now it's front and center with everything. And all of the people that are, getting ready to vote on these legislations are like, oh, wait a second, we've got to take a look at this. What's going on in here? So it's interesting to see where we're at in this point in time. And where it's going to go. So I'm keeping my eye close on legislation and what kind of rules are going to be put in place for all of us.
It's interesting you say that, because I tend to follow. I'm a bit boring, mate, but I like to follow the geopolitical angle of it around all of this. And there's a lot of theories around. Okay, the US is adopting Bitcoin. It's really good. Really happy that this is happening. But at the same time, I also think there's a real push for the use of stable coins. And, it's no surprise to me that there's an emphasis on stable coins like USDT, USDC, probably USDT more than any other at this point because of its broader reach.
Yeah.
But it's almost becoming, I think, there's a proxy for acquiring US treasuries, right? So if you've got a stable coin like USDT and there's a real demand for that, and because crypto makes it easier for so many people across the globe to access funds, USDT is very popular for that reason. And as a result of that, as long as that continues to grow, they're acquiring more US treasuries, which is a fantastic outcome for the US economy, right? So I actually look at that and think, hey, this is really good, because it's going to mean that, one, the US is going to become stronger and stronger as a result of that. So where some nations may decide, hey, we're not going down that path and acquiring more treasuries, USDT is going to become almost like a proxy country acquiring treasuries to be able to fund the stable coins that they'll issue to people at large across the globe. So I'm really buoyed by that, because I think it's a really good outcome in general for crypto.
Yeah.
But that to me is partly why Bitcoin's being pushed and being adopted. And the other thing I've noticed as well is that Bitcoin's no longer aligned to the traditional technology market, right? So movements in the technology stocks, Bitcoin is no longer as paired to that. It's actually more aligned with obviously things like gold, silver. So it's starting to be seen more like a commodity, which is a really good outcome again for Bitcoin. And here's the other thing, as you said earlier, that, my goodness, imagine, if you had Bitcoin at $3,000 or whatever it was a few years back to where it is now, that seller's remorse is really, I can just imagine anyone that may have sold out thinking they've done really well would be kicking themselves right now. And it's not to suggest that people can't borrow against Bitcoin now. They can. They certainly can. I think there's protocols like Aave, for example, that allow for that in a sort of decentralized way. But the reality with those sort of protocols is that they're not really community backed, and that they're charging interest, right? So you are paying interest on those borrowings, as opposed to what we're suggesting is, hey, this is a community bank, 0% interest. You can borrow against your PulseChain in that way. And anyway, so I think you get where I'm coming at with this. But
yeah. And so, did you see the Liberty swap news with the USDT being able to roll into PulseChain?
Yeah, I did see that. I thought that was a good outcome. Really pleased to hear that.
It's good to see things like that, starting to appear. Once we start getting more mainstream crypto interaction with the chain, I think that's going to be better too.
Yeah.
Once the narratives of this community and Richard start to fade away, and people actually see it functioning and working, and people moving into it, then yeah. But something else you said that I wanted to just real quickly. We've had a couple of pieces of legislation cross the desk, and so here's the thing I want to speak to the DeFi space, and especially people like yourself who are developing and putting these things on chain. We see legislation in the short term coming in and being favorable to crypto in general. However, I'm noticing that buried in some of this legislation are things that are not favorable to DeFi. For instance, just yesterday, the Clarity Act, I guess they call it HR 3633, is actually pretty detrimental to DeFi, and can bring harm to it, shut it down, actually allow the SEC to come in and relitigate the case against Hex, PulseChain, PulseX, and Richard Hart. If people don't understand what the Clarity Act is because now everything's on the table. We've always wanted to be regulated as a commodity, because once we do that, then we are no longer a security. So now this Clarity Act is what it's doing is it's separating the two. It's saying, okay, these are securities, these are commodities. The SEC is going to be in charge of these, and the CFTC is going to be in charge of these. So they're trying to make distinctions, and right now that's what they're arguing about. And they just basically kind of shut it all down yesterday and said, we're not going to vote on this yet. We're going to go in and look at it again because we don't understand. So I'm trying to look at the poison pills that are in these bills, because I know in the short term we're going to see, because the bull market is setting in. We're seeing, Ethereum just hit like an all-time 90-day high just about 10, 15 minutes ago before the show, 32 something or whatever. So things are starting to move. And in short term, these things are going to be favorable to the crypto space, because people are going to see, oh yeah, we've got regulatory clarity. We have laws coming in favorable to crypto. What crypto? And how does that affect us? And again, I think that we as a group in DeFi and in this PulseChain ecosystem have to be aware of all that, have to keep an eye on all that, and then have to set up advocacy groups, whether it be lobby firms or whatever it is, marketing like Richard's getting ready to start doing, whatever it is, what you're doing, going out there and getting into other spaces and getting in front of other people. But I think we've always got to be on the side of DeFi and speaking to DeFi and not letting them just take this centralized crypto thing that they're trying to create and let it win over and then call us all drug dealers, money launderers, terrorist sponsors, and whatnot. So that's what I just caution everybody, and to be vigilant. We got to be vigilant.
I think you're right. There's always the devil's in the detail, right? So, yes. and unfortunately, with you mentioned that to me, that that particular act was struck down, which is great, because I actually think sometimes there's also Trojan horses, right? So we just need to be mindful of that. So I'm really glad to hear that you're keeping a close watch on those things. I must admit that I missed that one on the radar, but generally speaking, I think the overall direction is good. But at the same time, there's always, the devil's in the detail, and occasionally things will come up that we may not necessarily align with. So it's just unfortunately, it's par for the course, right? That there's always going to be an element of that. Yeah. Exactly.
And just dodging bullets isn't enough. We have to be on the defense and the offense, just being missed like this thing. A lot of people didn't know about the Clarity Act. A lot of people didn't know that they were even putting it up for a vote yesterday. Well, a certain amount of them said, no, we're not going to vote on this. Now, it's not dead. It's not gone. They're just kind of putting it on the back burner while they can go through it and look at it. Now we have to see, okay, well, what details are they looking at? What are they going to try? What are they going to remove? Which way are they leaning? And that's what we as DeFi, community need to look at those things.
RG, I just wonder, there's a great guy. I think his tag name, I think, is Nuclear Herbs. He
Yes.
does. I think he's a lawyer. I'm assuming he's sort of following this and providing some insight as well. But he'd be a really good one to get some comment on in terms of what this may mean for DeFi in general, if he hasn't already done that. So.
Yeah, he and I speak on a regular basis and kind of keep an eye on these things for one another. I'm very connected politically. I'm having another meeting with Zach Conine. I think you might know, you guys. I mean, he was at the event, but he's the treasurer of Nevada. He's getting ready to run for the attorney general, and he's very connected to us and DeFi. And so we're constantly, communicating with everybody to kind of find out which way they're leaning and why they're leaning in the direction that they're leaning in. And we all know that, money moves the needle, and there are some big entities involved here. Just look at what CZ just did. CZ needs a pardon. He got put in prison for, doing what he did. And so now he's leaning into, the president of the United States here, and trying to get a pardon, and also contributing money into these crypto projects that they're building. So, who's on the table and who's at the table is real important here. And and I think that our biggest advocacy is projects like yours and what you guys are doing and outreach. We need to show people that there is real, use case in DeFi, because what they're trying to do is demonize us. They're trying to make us look like money launderers and terrorist sponsors. And that can't, cash is much bigger than crypto when it comes to all those things, and other stuff, so we need to advocate for what it is that we have our hands on here, and start to show and get more people out there, preaching DeFi and what it is, because everybody in crypto is hyping up green candles. And like you said earlier, instead of long-term, delayed gratification and the value of the crypto code being able to take market sentiment, products in the market, mix them together in a way that and have positive externalities programmed into them. Just the Bitcoin halving and what it does is proof that these crypto assets do things that the real world can't program in. It has to, market sentiment and all those things have to come together in order for those kinds of things to happen. But here we could program positive externalities into our currency and create things that have never been created before. Like you guys took a concept that takes a lot of Rube Goldberg machine in the real world to kind of create what you guys have a button click for. And I don't think enough about that.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that I wanted to sort of mention. One is that it's not just that, right? So sure, we've launched liquid loans, and look, that we have so many detractors, and some of the and unfortunately some of the comments a little bit sort of ill-founded. And so one of the things that we tend to cop a little bit of criticism over is, hey, how come there's not much liquidity for the loan token, blah blah blah, and our argument is because we told you never to sell loan token. And the reason you're not selling loan token is because you want to be staking it to acquire more of what you really value, which is PulseChain. And the emphasis is you're going to be acquiring more Pulse and more USDL if you're parking the loan token. So, and it's actually, that's part of the the ethos that we're trying to promote to the community.
Well, we've hashed it out before, and you've hashed it out many a times on other streams, and I know I get it. It comes in there, and I'll get the comments. Oh, RG, how can you have crazy on? They've done this and that. And that. It's like, listen to the streams and listen to what they've been talking about, and look at what everybody else has done. And it's the same thing. Nobody wants to just dump liquidity into something that people are going to extract. It's like, hey, fill up my marble jar so I could take out a couple of handfuls of marble.
That's right.
A handful in, but I need 2 handfuls out. That's what I was planning on. And again, it goes against the ethos of delayed gratification, using your crypto to acquire other assets, and then responsibly exiting those different assets out as you need them in the future. Like any good investment strategist would sit down and tell you. When I was a young man, it was right when the Motley Fool was coming out and everybody was starting to e-trade and all that kind of stuff. So of course I'm like, hey man, I want to get in the stock market. So I went to the only person I knew, which was my father-in-law, who is, highly invested. He was an executive for a Fortune 5 company. And I said, hey, I want to invest. So he hooked me up with a stockbroker. And I'm like, okay, I want to buy this one. And then we're going to sell it next week. And he's like, whoa. What are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, I'm watching these people. They're buying here. This .com went up like, 10,000%. And they're boom, boom, boom. And he's like, no. That's not how the stock market works. That's day trading and gambling. You're going to get yourself hurt. That's not how a young person should be doing this. And so I was educated and I was told, you're going to buy this stock. You're going to buy this stock. And when you're 60, we'll start talking about your strategy and how you're going to retire. And it bummed me out because I was wanting to throw the dice on the crap table and scrape in some chips, right? And I learned then that that's not how it's done. And when I looked at crypto, I thought that was going to be the same thing. But of course, crypto just turned into the gambling game also. And that hasn't gone away, even though Richard has, taught people in this ecosystem otherwise, they still have that mentality. And I think it's just because that's the greater crypto spaces, narrative.
Yeah. And again, I honestly feel that's the mindset shift that has to happen, that we need to get people thinking more about, hey, it's not about the immediate gratification stuff. It's about delaying your gratification and, using things like HEX to do that, using liquid loans to facilitate some of that. So you're not selling the underlying asset and you can still extract value over time. And that to me is the mindset shift. The other thing I did want to flag, and I know that we kind of mentioned this before, but part of our role in terms of promoting PulseChain more broadly is that we did launch gopulsechain.com. And the absolute intent of that is that we felt that that's the business card or the calling card for PulseChain, that, hey, it lists all the projects that have listed themselves on that particular website. It talks about all the projects. It talks about Richard, his ethos. It's actually a really good place to direct people just to learn about what the hell PulseChain's all about, and also to learn about the various projects that exist on PulseChain. So we're trying to do as much as we can to help promote PulseChain. And I think that's not a bad site to help people understand what PulseChain's all about, and certainly to understand what Richard's ethos is about as well. Now, the other project, there's been a couple, right? So we've got that. We've also launched, it's the multi-sig. It's the PulseChain Safe Wallet, which allows people to create a multi-sig on PulseChain, which is a really nice feature. I suspect there may be some others, but that's one that we've created so people can go off and use. The other project that we launched that was a necessary part of liquid loans was to have an oracle. So as I understand it, it's the only oracle that exists at the moment on PulseChain, and it's Fetch. So Fetch is a really, really good tool for anyone that needs either on-chain or off-chain data. And that's been running successfully now for a couple of months at least. And people are able to go and have a look at that, create a reporter if they'd like to become part of that network. We've got people like Gamma that actually provides support to people on that particular project. We've not done a big song and dance on Fetch, and Look, in part, I think part of the reason for that is obviously the chain is struggling a little bit. Richard, in the circumstances that he's in at the moment, hasn't, it's not a great situation for the chain and the community, but we're kind of hopeful that will change over time. But people wanting to launch on PulseChain are probably, and this is not us necessarily, but they're probably a little bit reluctant to do that under the circumstances. But we still have to do our best to try and promote the chain to others that may be wanting to develop. And the only thing I had hoped, and I think I mentioned this to you before we jumped on, was that we have a really strong community more broadly. And obviously Richard's a big, he's the big reason for the community being formed in the way it has been. But I actually think that what we need for PulseChain in particular is we need a community of developers, right? So hence gopulsechain.com was intended to help facilitate some of that and provide some of the development tools that different teams may need to use or may want to use. So we're doing what we can, and we'll continue to do that. And again, the speaker circuit stuff, it's taxing. It sort of wears you down, but that's our contribution. That's what we can do at this point in time.
No, you guys, I've been streaming here from the beginning, and you see the people come and go. You see the people come and extract and go. You see people come and fail and go. You guys have come in, done your thing, provided service, continue to provide service, and continue to build and continue to stay here, and and show your face. You haven't disappeared. You haven't walked away. You're still here, and in spite of criticisms and everything else, look, we can all be criticized, and everybody has their own opinions on how things have been done or are being done. There's people that criticize Richard on a regular basis for what he's done, and we're all out here trying to do our best, and everybody has to make their decisions as far as what their investments are and how they get involved, and that on their own. And that means doing your research and not getting yourself in a position where you've over leveraged yourself or whatever. We got to remember that these are all new emerging technologies, and we're in the crypto space on top of that. So, if things were different as far as number go up, then a lot of people would have different opinions of everything, and it's like money in your pocket changes everything. You're like, oh, money's not important. Well, it's right up there with oxygen. You just watch how pissed off people get when they don't have enough.
Look, it's funny you say that. I think that we've done some analysis in terms of the price of the loan token relative to the price of Pulse, and I think the correlation between the two is really high. It's over 85%. So as the price of Pulse moves, inevitably the price of loan tends to move alongside it. And so we are inexorably linked to the performance of the chain. Yeah. And so we should be. And so there's an element of that. But here's the thing that I think has been missed across the community. And again, I'm not defending us in any way. I think no one's really happy with the price of most projects across the board. But those that have been using liquid loans the way that we had suggested you should be using it, I think the community have been able to acquire, since launch, it's close to $12 million USD in value from either staking their loan token or providing stability to the system. So people that have been using the protocol in that way have been able to share in that sort of amount of fees that have come through to the protocol. So it's a really good protocol. Sure, no one's happy with the price and no one's happy with the price of Pulse, but we're kind of hopeful that that's going to change. And, even if those things aren't working, you can still benefit from using the protocol. So anyway, I don't want to keep spruiking about that, but that's inevitably something that a lot of people miss. And we just continue to do what we need to do to keep promoting PulseChain. Oh, there was one other thing. We started a new YouTube channel. We've got a young fella. His name's Paul. He's fantastic. Really, he's fantastic. He's so fresh and bastard. He's so young. It reminds me of me in my younger days, but he's very, very good. And he's presenting, and we started a site called the Coin Zone, and we were deliberate in the sense that we didn't necessarily want it to be singularly focused on PulseChain, because we want to reach a broader audience. sure, it's sponsored by us, and people will inevitably come across and start thinking about PulseChain, but we needed to reach a broader audience. And so we've done everything we can to try and, promote various different projects. Paul will talk about different topics on that particular website and YouTube channel. But the aim is we want to reach a broader audience and start to showcase what we're doing over in PulseChain. So again, just another aspect of what we're trying to do to promote the chain itself.
Yeah. And you guys are even doing stuff like Crypto Chat 7 had his daughter in it. What is it? Was it a soccer game or something? You guys had your flags out there flying on.
Yeah. I wish it was a soccer game. No. It was look, it's show jumping, right? So I think Crypto 7, his family members are involved in show jumping. And so, you've got an elite crowd, right? So if you know anything about show jumping, it's not an inexpensive sport, right? It's quite an expensive sport. And as a result of that, we thought, look, this is a good fit. We can present what we're doing to that particular audience. There will be high net worth individuals there that may want to know a little bit more about PulseChain, know a little bit more about liquid loans. This seems like a really good fit for us. So we've helped Crypto 7 help to promote not just PulseChain, obviously liquid loans as well, but it's just another way of trying to reach a broader audience.
Yeah. We do the same out here with the baseball games and the basketball games, and we have our sponsorships on the walls and whatnot. So we've done it here too. So I mean, just another way, little way to get some outreach, and that's going to coincide with what Richard's getting ready to do with his marketing campaign. He's getting ready for a global marketing campaign. It's going to be interesting to see how that all turns out and when that actually, gets fired off, which I think it's really soon. I think there was a video that somebody put out of Richard saying, hey, first you at the bottom of the market, you turn things around, and then you do mass marketing, and boom, that's when it starts rolling. So I think that Richard is probably ready for this thing to start moving in the upward direction, as are all of us, Yeah,
absolutely. And look, I think it's I don't know Richard personally, obviously, but he must be one frustrated dude, like having to go through all of the stuff that he's had to deal with, and let's face it, we all have egos. Richard's probably one of the bigger egos in the community, obviously, but the fact that his chain is underperforming, that would hurt. It would hurt. And I kind of feel that, he owes it to himself, let alone the community, to try and do everything he can to try and help us to change that, to turn that around. And my expectation is that that's going to happen. What's hard to determine at this point is when, like how long is it going to be before we start to see all that turn around. I'm hopeful that it's sooner rather than later, but it's a timing thing for me.
Yeah. Being in the position I'm in and seeing all of the work that has been done by, streamers, people that put on events, people that make products, t-shirts, hats, the contributions that everybody has made, the different dev teams that are out there working on projects on PulseChain, all the stuff that's going on in the background, especially at our events when, they come and they support and they set up their booths and they talk to community members, just all the work that this community has done. I think it's building up a lot of kinetic energy. And we did a lot of this in the bear market, and it's built up kinetic energy. And the thing that really, and we see it every, bull season when a bull market hits crypto, and that's, after the halvening has happened and those metrics hit, and then after the macroeconomics happen and those things hit, then, then we see that bull market, all that kinetic energy that's been built up. I think that the sentiment against Richard Hart in this community and his ecosystem and his tokens is pretty faded. There's not a whole lot out there that you can, the man beat the SEC, and that was obvious just a few days ago. That was solidified. That doesn't mean that it can't come back up, especially with this stupid act here thing. But what it's done is, I think he is not the same person today that he was, 4 years ago when, Hex was moving up. He was hated way more when Hex was up than he is now. There's just a few detractors. There's a lot of kinetic energy built up by this community. And when the number does start going up, and when, retail comes into this market faster, and we see a more favorable macroeconomic outlook, like, for instance, I think they're getting ready to remove the chairman of the SEC, and they're going to start lowering interest rates and doing that kind of stuff. I think that's going to, change the macroeconomic outlook, and, of course, ring in another set of green candles here. So it's all starting to come together, and I think we've got a lot of kinetic energy built up, and this community has done a phenomenal job of going out there and doing outreach and working and building during the bear market.
Agree. Mate, it's been really good to catch up. I really appreciate the opportunity. But it's we're hopeful. We really are hopeful, and we'll keep doing our bit. I'll get on stage, do the spruiking, and do the best we can. And obviously we'll keep building as well. So we'll there's a few things coming up that can't divulge right now, but we are expecting to release a few more projects down the track. And that's really important for us. And we'll talk a little bit more about Fetch, because at the moment we just, whilst it's been launched and it's been quite successful, we have a number of reporters reporting. Not a lot of people really understand Fetch, so we'll do a little bit more to help educate the community on how that all works as well.
Yeah, especially as its track record is proving itself. That's that it's time to start letting people know, what exactly is going on, and then validate it. So good. We'll chat next time about that and some of your new projects.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Good to catch up. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming, man. We'll catch you on the next one. All right, everybody. We'll see you.
See you, bud. Bye-bye.
Why is Hex better than Bitcoin? Well, first of all, it's the fundamentals of the code. The fundamentals of the code are better than Bitcoin's fundamentals. The inflation model is better than Bitcoin's inflation model. The staking feature is better than a mining feature. It's new tech versus old tech. It's decentralized versus centralized. Yes, all of those things